this is a sharing.
We are live.
Very cool.
You can call to order.
Like it that way.
All right. What is today? January 21st, 2025. Calling to order a special council meeting for a couple of business items and a budget retreat so that we can discuss and figure out how we want to move into the next fiscal year ending in 2027. Moving right along. Moving right along. That doesn't sound right.
Thank you so much.
With that being said, we are here at the Central Pines Regional Council offices here in Durham, right off of I-40. Central Pines Regional Council, of course, the regional government for 7 counties in the middle of the state of North Carolina, including Johnston, Wake, Durham, Orange, Chatham, Lee, and Moore County. I believe that's 49 municipalities lumped into that conversation. In fact, we're only one short as far as our towns or cities are concerned for the entire region as part of this group that is Central Pines Regional Council. These offices here are at our disposal for any member government that is part of Central Pines Regional Council. They offer the offices for free, these conference rooms for free. So we can come out here anytime if we need to change the scenery, some things to figure out with our neighbors. We can all convene in this conference room to discuss matters that affect this region for member governments. That's a free service that is offered. Before we get into the actual agenda, I do want to make sure we do some housekeeping. We are missing a couple of council members this evening. And I want to make sure that their whereabouts are noted for this particular meeting. So Councilwoman Watson, in the name of transparency, she says, I don't think it's a very good idea to have our budget meeting adjourned. It makes it next to impossible for anyone from our community that may be interested to attend, not to mention the expense of driving all the way to Durham. Personally, I am not a fan of driving at night, especially in Durham. I don't like the optics of this, and I will not be attending. I will expect my absence to be recorded as such, and of course, we will certainly note that absence for this meeting, but just to make sure that the record is clear, Councilwoman Watson does not plan to attend this meeting this evening. Councilman Overby has also written to us to express that he will not be here as well. He writes, the consent agenda should be about the budget only. I actually think we only just have one item on the consent agenda, but we'll get to that in a moment. We are leaving out our citizens on the business items as well as the budget. I will not be attending. I will expect my absence to be recorded as such. That's Councilman Overby, and we will make sure that we make note of that as well. But with that being said, we do have an agenda before us related to the budget retreat, some business items, and the only thing on the consent agenda are actually some minutes from a 2025 June 23rd special council meeting. So there's nothing else on the consent agenda but those minutes. So with that being said, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with those minutes? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is the end of our consent agenda. So with that being said, we've got a budget retreat to get into, and we'll actually be snacking on some food as well. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to hear some shuffling and ruffling here in the background a little bit, but I think we should go ahead and dig into some food, and then we'll also commence to chit-chatting while we're digging into food about our budget and go from there. So give us just a moment. We'll collect some snacks for particularly the staff to get snacking on, and we'll start looking at the budget. All right?
On these boxes, just,
Yes, sir. All right. We'll jump back into conversation related to our budget. We've got past the consent agenda. We've all gotten some food to snack on. And we can keep that close, right? So they don't necessarily have to work watching and snacking. But we will jump into the budget conversation and go through first council priorities. So we'll start from there and then we'll drill down to some of the particular items that we want to touch base on as far as big ticket items that we're going to need to discuss. So starting off with council priorities, we do have a little slide here. I think about 3 slides worth of council priorities to discuss. So top of the list, considering the amount of things that we have coming towards us with growth. Public works staff, particularly the central employee side related to sanitation. It is going to be a challenge to keep up a clean town with the amount of offerings, the amount of people that will be coming into our community very soon. Okay. Animal control improvement is way up on the list, if I understand correctly. Cats everywhere. I'd say that we are glad to see that some of the dog issues that we were seeing previously have dialed back tremendously, but we do seem to still have a cat explosion going on throughout the town of Selma. So we do need significant animal control improvement, full-time animal control. So if not just one full-time, maybe a full-time and a part-time, 2 full-time, but full-time animal control, day and night, needs to be covered to some extent. All right. 24/7 town these days. Increased code enforcement. So 1 full-time code enforcement officer we have, another full-time code enforcement officer, specifically to separate out some of the Section 17 violations versus some of your standard or other standard ordinance violations for the town. So, Councilman Whitley, did you want to add anything to that? Because I know that's big on your list right now.
Yeah, just at the very highest level would be an additional code enforcement officer to handle all the issues that pop up daily within our town. So an additional officer, I think, is much needed for the town center.
So, with that public works conversation, sanitation, another truck, another garbage truck, another trash truck, another recycling truck, 3 operational trucks for the town of Selma. Right now, if one goes down, hey, we manage, but it's cutting it close. It's cutting it very close. Having 3 in rotation gives us a little breathing room, particularly as we're about to see new neighborhood, new apartment complex, new townhomes coming into the town of Selma. Okay. Water and sewer salaries. In the real world, expertise is hard to find. Other communities are raising their salaries around us for the expertise. We need to be mindful of what's happening around us, and we need to make sure that we are staying competitive in the municipal services department. Financial department salaries, we definitely want to take a very close look at that. Another piece that, as we have found, many communities are struggling with finances, and the expertise to deal with the finances that towns like the town of Selma are dealing with right now, it's hard to find. And then overall for the entire staff, those particular departments we have highlighted, but throughout the entire staff salary schedule, a close look at what's happening around us, what I would call a common sense salary schedule. We don't need to pay anybody multiple thousands of dollars to figure out what we can look at in reality. look at what is happening around us and making sure that we are staying competitive in the municipal marketplace. Part-time staffing, wage increases as far as part-time staffing is concerned. Olive Garden is about to open up. A line cook is going to make $17.50 an hour, starting out. Not knowing how to cook a ham sandwich when they walk in the door. That's just reality. Again, the marketplace that we're in, what we're dealing with right now when it comes to growth, new enterprise, new commercial offerings. Next slide. Street paving. So we are looking at $5.5 million overall over the next few years to catch up with what is in bad condition. We would love to take a stab with already Powell bill money at a total of $450,000 as far as street paving. Let's be honest, that number's high. That's a lot of money. But I'm going to circle back to a discussion about a revenue-focused budget. So when we're talking about code enforcement, when we're talking about fines and fees, when we're talking about the services that we offer, let's make sure that we're collecting the money we should be collecting and making sure that the services that we are offering are bringing in the appropriate revenue for what we do. Gateway and wayfinding signage project funding. We're already started in the first phase of gateway signage and wayfinding signage. Continue that steadily over the next 5 years or so. And of course, that conversation is generally covered by tourism dollars at this rate, but we do need to be mindful of where we are in our tourism dollars and pay close attention to our tourism budget for this upcoming fiscal year. Big ticket item that is a dream of many, many years is Train Depot Park. The initial pieces of the depot need to get underway, and we need to have steady progress over the next several years. So with that, fencing for the park area, that's that grassy area in front of our current Union Station. Dog run area would also be encompassed in that fence conversation. That's purely just a fencing conversation. And then Cellar Street, some type of concreting, curb and gutter concrete area for Cellar Street behind where Michener Station currently sits. Initial stabs at those pieces, particularly those first 3 pieces, and then as we go further down, certainly search for grant dollars related to the Michener Station rehab, the actual rehab of the building itself. And again, we are kind of going down priority. That first slide was staff focused, so let's bear in mind, staff is our first priority. Staff to face the challenges that we have is our first priority in time zone. These pieces, as we get into the second slide, are, if we can take some swings at them, let's take some swings at them and be mindful that we are aggressive about attacking some of these great things that we can do in the town itself. Jernigan Building Portraits. We do currently have 2 fantastic portraits of some famous folks of the town of Selma. I think that's a tradition that we need to get going and that we need to continue over the next few years, as there are a lot of amazing people who have built the foundation of Selma that need to be recognized. So get some pricing related to that and see what type of hit we would take on maybe doing 2 portraits a year. Sidewalk repair. That is not a super high priority as far as the actual need is concerned. That is one of those pristine pieces that if we can approach cleaning up some of the veneer of our sidewalks, would be a significant win for the town of Selma. To be straightforward, compared to many communities, our sidewalks are doing pretty well, particularly in that downtown area. But at the same time, we do know there's room to improve in our sidewalks throughout. Sumner Street Park move, and with that, we do need to look into a land appraisal for where the current park is on Sumner Street. Because the idea would be if we are going to move that park, when we do move that park, realize some revenue from selling the property that the current park sits on. We do currently have property that we have eyed to move those park structures to on Smithfield Street, more centrally located in that southwest community of Selma. But we do need to figure out what type of revenue might be able to come back from that parcel of land that park sits on right now. So at least the initial steps of understanding the land there, and if we do find ourselves some breathing room, go ahead and start getting some structures moved around as well. Railroad days. I remember $200,000 being a number at some point in time. Let's talk about it. This does need to be a serious discussion about how the budgeting works for railroad days. And staff, I do want you to chime in on this because I've heard ideas thrown around about what railroad days can be and should be. Let's talk about first, we've heard conversation about bigger and better acts. Who wants to talk about that?
Talk is talk. We need to know what the council's priorities are. That's what we're looking for guidance. You know, to give you, for conversation's sake, the Confederate Railroads of the world, what we want is the names you see in JCC, like, they've stepped up their game, so those groups are in the $15,000 to $20,000.
$15,000 to $20,000.
So, now, you know, last year we were looking at contracts, that's what we're asking. Genre doesn't matter to us. What's going to draw a crowd, what's our citizen, you know, what's going to make our citizen come. So the TAMs, that style of group runs about 5 to 6 in that ballgame. So you can get a lot of high, I don't call it high end bitch music for that 5 to 6 range. The groups you're seeing at Rock and Away are in that $2,000 to $3,500. So, you know, what draws the crowd? What do we want on Saturdays? We don't have anything. We're looking for guidance from the council. We can build the show we want. We just need to know. And here's the deal. Whatever that act is, act, whatever you want, cannot wait for June 1st or July 1st. We don't sign them, I'm gonna say before March, if they start falling off.
Right.
You know, February was not our first bid last year. I think it was successful, with about 600 people out there at one time watching, but, you know, it get dragged out, And I think we ended up signing in April, May, and we were probably 4th down the list. That was our count, somebody already counted. So, you know, we're gonna need some good faith, say, hey, y'all go with this, y'all find us this act, but we're gonna have to sign a thing, and we can make that happen. And then the funds,
Well, the Ultimate Eagles
Yes.
is slipping.
they were 55, I believe. So that, they're in that same level.
I had 2 sets of people. Were you responsible for that? I said, well, I suggested it, but the town did it. We love it. And this other couple, we came over from Clayton because we heard this. I love them. I think they're great.
Now,
It's
the broad plan is to have one station.
one stage.
Okay. Part of this conversation also, we'll talk about how much we're spending. How much can we bring in with the conversations we're having about who's gonna be there? So just to give you an idea of what we're saying here, if you tell somebody, big corporate group that the TAMS is coming, how much do you want to give us to help fund railroad days? They might say, I'll throw you a little bit of scratch. But you tell them a $60,000 group is coming, they might want to have their name all over that because they know it's going to draw a crowd. So I mentioned this at some point last year that in conversations about expenses, we also have to have the conversation about the revenue that we're expecting to bring in with this event. So if we do talk about a $200,000 railroad days, we would then reasonably be saying, hey, maybe the town will eat $30,000 just straight out of general fund budget, but we're gonna need to raise $170,000. And that's a conversation that, from a staff side, how much do you think we can raise off of a certain conversation? And that's the trick in this whole thing. It can't be we just have a $60,000 van show up and nobody wants to help make that possible. Okay?
I will say realistically, over the last 3 years of experience, I'm saying recent experience, unless we bring some type of fundraising person in that's specific, I think last year, probably about this, we can expect, with the exception of some new, also we got some new sources that possible, but we were 60.
We were right at
70,000, which we raised last year, which was
We
amazing.
worked for it.
But that was scratching and penny, and that girl right there is responsible for 95% of it.
That's Ms. General point.
Yeah, that was scratching the, and that was another 50 here.
Right.
Right.
So I'm not saying it can't be done, but with current level of staffing and ability, I think that's a high one.
Well, this is a staff conversation and bring back to us over the next month. What we really think is realistic as far as $200,000 for not 50th Railroad Days might be a bridge too far. But think about it, maybe have some conversations with some of our local partners early about what they think would be a home run for our community, and we'll go from there.
I did want to raise one more thing, just for y'all to be thinking about, what brings you bad news time like that. Not in summer, but I do not feel that two-day railroad days we're going to get up on. I don't think that the minute's just not going to be there, even if it was extremely successful. We'll end up kind of have a much more than a ragged. We're gonna try, we're still gonna pursue, but, you know, just leaving that, I think it's gonna be a very important reason to go 2 days. Could go longer without it, but I just leave it that.
I'll throw a little brainstorm out there, the carnival at Potter. Premium Outlets seems to do well. So maybe if that carnival piece is something that's happening over in Eastville as a separate piece for how many other days they want to do their things in that area around Railroad Days. Railroad Day still happens in downtown because I'll be honest, I did not see a lot of people transporting themselves from the main strip to go down to the carnival. But if you have both those pieces existing in what is now the larger Selma, maybe we got something going on. So that's an excellent point and something to explore. Cool. Anything else related to Railroad Days?
Maybe a bigger band.
That's right. Forget the carnival conversation. Worry about the bigger band piece. Let's brainstorm. We'll work on it.
Even though they're really rocking on radio, there is some good bands that come through, they have some pretty big crowds. So you gotta have, gotta make sure we got a band that clean everything up this summer. The band Oz, you know what you did with these guys, you always got a crowd. Then you got this, it was a group that came from, down around East Carolina, the older group that came for rep one night, they was older guys that came out of East Carolina, that way you call out, it was a group, and they had like an older crowd, but they was another one that, I mean, just like, and everybody's killed. So sometimes the big names, they're not bringing the big money. Got their following, all these bigger, every time you got their band Oz, you got the show.
This is just an idea. I know we like to get the community involved and we want to kind of engage more on social media, if we could do like a poll and see what the community wants to see for Railroad Days. Because what we like to hear might not be what everybody else likes to hear.
Very good.
And maybe if you had an input on who comes to Railroad Days, you would want to be there, like Miss Amy.
You put rock, that's gonna be number one for paint.
Or maybe they could
Each
just throw out names to get an early idea of who we want to explore.
I bet you could get some significant feedback. And then, of course, we are talking about, of course, more than one music act, because we're talking about Friday evening and Saturday. But there's the headliners and then, what, maybe 5, 6 sprinkled in all told, right? Rock and roll. Anything else on Railroad Days?
Thank y'all.
Voucher program participation. This is simply get us some information, particularly related to the demographics for folks that participate in these voucher programs. I'll tell you, I know Keeneland Council is interested in how many elderly folks we have participating in these voucher programs. And that is in consideration on whether or not we continue participation with the town sign or not. Richard B. Harrison Alumni Building Renovation. Of course, we are in the midst of conversation about bringing that back into the system. We do need to get some solid numbers as we're going into the budget conversation and as we're going into the conversation about bringing it back into the system, about what it would cost to at least get the building stabilized so that over the years we can properly clean it up and make that a showcase alumni building that it deserves. So just some initial numbers of the most necessary cleanup of the Richard B. Harrison Alumni Building. Tennis court maintenance. This is something that is becoming pressing because the longer we hold off on maintaining our tennis courts, the more money we're going to have to spend to maintain our tennis courts. And we do have a decent, impressive tennis court area in Edgebrook Park that is starting to truly show signs of wear. And sadly enough, somebody decided to take pickleball lines on, so we need to get rid of those as well. But we do need to start getting some serious numbers and take a serious approach at tennis court maintenance. Tennis court maintenance. Harrison Gymnasium concessions or vending. This is one of those expense revenue conversations. With as much folks as we have now piling into the Harrison Gymnasium on a regular basis, the many events we hold, the many sporting outings that are at Harrison Gymnasium, there's certainly some revenue to be found, particularly in concessions and vending when folks are piling into that gym. So it is not a super high priority. If we have other things to take care of in our parks and recreation world, certainly take care of those basic polished pieces first. But this is something that's a common sense move that can really help defray some of the costs related to parks and rec. Nature preserve improvements. Of course, this year we are going to be working with a grant, a Great Trail State grant, to make improvements, initial improvements to that nature preserve. But while we're at it, let's see if there is any extra room to further the improvements that are already slated for this year. Now, again, a lower priority because we are already working with the Great Trail State grant. But at the same time, we're swinging for the stars here on everything we do in the town.
So back to the Harrison Gymnasium
Yes, sir.
concession again.
Yeah.
There's probably some good money to be made there.
Tons of it.
When you figure back your case of water.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the very good nice, you're gonna get water $1 fall ahead of it most, you know what I'm saying? Then you got the service also, you can make some money. If you got patient part-time operating, you can make some money. At least.
We were in Benson yesterday watching a basketball game. And I mean, we had drinks in the car, but the kids wanted the drinks inside the gymnasium. So money was paid for drinks inside the gymnasium.
Got that room, I was speaking the other day about when we went in there, there's this room that sits right there beside the basketball court. And it would be great to have shelving units, but you've got to have that part-time person there to sell.
One, that's right.
That was the issue before, so we weren't, they kept telling y'all, we're not making money. What you're gonna see was overhead, which means,
Mhm.
and that was a failure.
Mhm.
And we just turned it over, and I said, we, at the time, but, some cities were late to go in place, and just turned it over the other way.
You know, this is a business. So we need to have a business understanding of how business gets done. And again, revenue versus expenses is the conversation all day long. Nature preserve, down to historic markers, and I believe this is kind of an old, historic properties conversation, adding historic markers to our historic districts and particularly to our showcase historic properties. That is, I'll be frank, a super low priority, but if we do find some extra revenue related to that. But bear in mind, when we're talking about code enforcement, when we're talking about abatement of properties and things like that, some of the revenue that should be realized from cleaning up the town of Selma can go to these conversations. When we are charging for permits to do things in the historic district, some of that revenue should turn around to improve the historic district. That's why we take seriously doing it correctly in the town of Selma. Christmas decorations polish, there's probably a few requests for a few more Christmas items here and there. But on the flip side, we had a conversation recently about how some of our bows are looking a little worn. I think multiple times they said, hey, maybe we can just lose the bows. Maybe one of those things stick up on the poles. Have a cleaner look. We don't have to worry about something becoming faded orange anymore. Anybody miss the bows? Anybody?
I won't.
No? 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 No. Lose the bows. And then with that, if there are some cute Christmas items, who's a big Christmas fan in the room? Oh, George has got the hand way up. Leanne is wagging the finger. She's all over it. If there's some things that we see that around the corners of Selma, particularly on Selma properties that can have a little pizzazz, let's do some cool things throughout the year.
We
Like
do-
that train
we
at
do-
town hall.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
We do need to, George was talking about this before we launched the plan.
Mhm.
Instead of waiting until we're in bad shape, you just have it. So a little bit of money just to replace some of the big things like the stars and the, well, you got stars, beer, something like that. So they have a few extra. Give out more just like you do on.
That's
So,
right.
like, what in the world happened, so, yeah, we're playing on that and see what we can do.
The, just trying to see. Oh, I'll remember to back right up to it.
It'll come back.
Anything else on Christmas decoration?
I would like to mention one thing. It made, this is just, hey, back in the olden days, when I was a little girl, they used to have this lighted banner that would go across the street. All you need is one. They are beautiful. I don't know how much they would cost, but we went to, I hate to mention another town, but we went to Apex. We had to go to a hardware store and carry for something specialized. So we rode to Apex, and there it was. This beautiful Christmas decoration over their main street, which I think is Sumner Street, I think, or. But anyway, that can be another time. I can find you a picture.
It carries train, on that track, is about 20 foot tall.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
about $40,000.
Oh, wow.
It is, it pops.
Yes, and that railroad goes in.
We're not gonna get anybody's hopes up, no $40,000 trains for Christmas. All right.
I was gonna turn this week loose with the catalog. Hold the corners up.
Thank y'all.
All right, next slide. Organizational chart. So Just a quick discussion about our organization. Of course, I know those looking at home can't really read this, but this is just a general idea of what we're looking at as far as our overall organization is concerned. Staff, I'm sure there's some things we want to look at, shuffle and move and talking about.
Excuse me. Last year, obviously, we had some staff members. The main thing that me and Dr. looked at today was just adding those additional pieces, such as the fire marshal, the lieutenants in the fire department. Jeff is the numbers on the police officers as they go down. And then some, and I'm sorry, it's a small one, I struggle with it. What was this?
Dalton has handled business. Dalton has handled business.
Oh, there we go.
I definitely remember one thing, a few things here. We did some flipping around on the library, excuse me, on Parks and Rec, where the library was not, at the top, but, programs and superintendent, they're really not personal. So, yeah. Code enforcement. She kind of swings. So which way through my under plan Z, spots to the there. Yeah, that's what it is. We have been saying, we just took the sanitation part off for the custodian. The custodian, we put back up here. And that part, and again, these are just changes that are, organic, added by. Yeah, the lieutenant. Yeah, then the fire marshal. So, we can still work with any, changes that y'all see fit, but that was just a kind of, because I think this has been a year old since we built this all.
So what we'll do is we'll put this in everybody's hands and come back with kind of a consensus on what adjustments need to be made. But we,
I don't think we had this for the guns before. You can say it.
Yes.
so yeah, we'll put this in everybody's hands and we'll get some thoughts about where the thing needs to be. And we'll go from there. All right. That's a nice map.
That printer where George got for the electric has been.
That's fantastic.
It's been
Made life a
Very
lot easier on a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's a home run right there, but home run.
Saved us a lot of money too, because that's $60-70 to print out.
Having the right tools makes a difference. All right, moving along. Let's see, what is our next conversation? Code enforcement in general. So, for 2 years worth of actually having serious, solid code enforcement, we've done all right. Miss Ashley Parker, our code enforcement officer, has really gotten the attention of quite a few people around town. Got lots of calls from some landlords, which I love. But we need to do more. Town of Selma has improved drastically. If you were here 2 years ago and you hadn't seen the town in 2 years, you're amazed. But for those of us who want pristine, we know we have a ways to go. With that being said, we need to have clear conversation really going forward about what our code enforcement procedures are, the turnaround time to figure out how to get these things addressed and abated, and what type of stress that puts on our staff, and if we have the appropriate amount of staff to handle it to the level that is going to keep our community satisfied. So with that being said, I know we need to have a kind of general overview of what type of process we need to see, and then we need to take it back to legal and make sure that we are clear on what we can and cannot do as far as code enforcement and abatement are concerned. So the first thing that we've said, and I know we've been saying this for a while, is that we invoice quarterly. Quarterly. Why do we invoice quarterly for code enforcement? To make sure everybody has an opportunity to appeal before we throw that invoice out. Okay? I want to make sure that, is there any concerns there? Is this something that might cause any problems as far as our operations and systems are concerned? Quarterly. Cool. What that means is that our Board of Adjustment meets 4 times a year. So your opportunity to appeal a code enforcement violation, a code enforcement action, is at a quarterly Board of Adjustment meeting. So our Board of Adjustment meetings happen on the February-May cycle as far as the quarters are concerned. So what I would say is code enforcement violations in February, before February, get cut off at February 1st for the appeals related to February. So if you get a code violation after February or on February 1 or beyond, your appeal cycle is in May. Does everybody understand that?
May 1st, you then be cut off.
Yep.
If you're not in the process, you can invoice, and we'll look at it again after the Board of Adjustment.
That's right. And we'll make sure we polish that out in black and white. We'll paper that as well.
One question, I guess this is more for Leanne and then for clarity. That does not stop someone that just wants to come in and pay off of their violation. If I get a legitimate, I say, yep, I have a trash can slam pool, I got a ticket, I'm just gonna walk up there and pay that. It does not restrict anyone from paying that. It doesn't put a kink in your operation, correct?
We can easily, and then of course we don't send an invoice because they pay, and
Yeah.
that saves us
So it's time to
time and money. Yeah, that's an efficient business decision to make sure that if you go ahead and pay, we don't have to send you an invoice because you're good. All right, so we'll polish that process up in black and white to make sure that we understand that. And if anybody finds any kinks in that plan, make sure we speak up quick and make adjustments. Bear in mind, on a regular code enforcement violation, my understanding now is the recheck on the violation is on day 11. So you get tagged, code enforcement is not going to come back to see if you're in compliance until day 11 after you get tagged. So you get a 10-day period to clean it up. With that being said, in real life, by our ordinances, we can abate immediately. Once you get tagged, you haven't cleaned it up, we can abate immediately after that recheck on day 11. We could. But there are certain things that won't warrant the work of abating immediately. That if you come back and our code enforcement officer finds it on the 11th day, they get hit with another graduated fine, which I believe adds $100. Is that correct? So it's 50, then 150, plus an administrative fee of 150. And then if you get hit with the third fine, that is 250 plus 150. So we can go all the way up to day or check number 9, and then we've maxed out on how much we can charge you. And at that point, we need to have a clear understanding, particularly from legal, what needs to happen in between to make sure we can get to an abatement after we have maxed out that fine capacity. Because by that point in time, you have probably racked up $3,000 worth of fines.
That's you've checked somebody 9 times.
9 times you've been back to the same property.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So again, anytime in between that process, we can abate. So if you get to 5 and you're like, all right, we need to abate. We do need an understanding from legal what things have to happen in between before we abate. So if there's something where we're thinking we're probably going to make 5 visits and we're going to abate this, what has to happen before we abate?
What is that 9 times? Why is it 9 times?
Well, 9 times isn't necessary. So 9 times is on our fee schedule. We max out at adding the graduated fee after that.
Is your fees that are maxed
Yeah,
out.
your
And
fees are
that is
maxed out.
because it's a non-time.
Yeah. And after that, we are just spinning our wheels and wasting our time. But if we have decided that, hey, this is a situation where if we see this 4 times, we're gonna wanna go ahead and abate it, what do we need to do? We need a clear understanding of that. Now, bear in mind with the trash cans, baked into abatement automatically with our ordinance / fee schedule is the addition of a trash can if you have overflowing trash after the 3rd tag, or the removal of a recycling can if you're doing improper recycling after the 3rd tag. Or is it on the 3rd tag?
It is third tag.
It's removed.
So it goes in.
On the 3rd tag, we're either adding a trash can for overflowing trash or removing a recycling can for improper recycling. Okay? And I believe within our ordinances, there's some leeway given to the Public Works Utilities Director authority to manage that process as they see fit. So let's go back and take a close look at that ordinance to make sure that that language matches with our ability to enforce. Okay? A conversation about cost to abate. I believe we talked to Ashley today about giving us an understanding of what actually does have a liquid capital cost versus what is just calling somebody to get it taken care of. For instance, if we need to tow a car out of a yard, that is simply calling somebody to tow a car. That is no expense up front for the town of Selma. But at the same time, if we're sending a company, we're calling 1-800-JUMP to clean up a whole mass of things, there's an expense related there, and we would be wise to pass that expense to the offender. We don't necessarily need to have Public Works going in and cleaning up these things. We do need to have somebody clean up these things, and if it costs money, we need to pass that cost on to the offender that we're cleaning up after. Because using particularly our Public Works folks to clean up those things all the time is an extra strain on our already limited resources. So even if we do tag them with an amount related to that cleanup, we have just taken somebody from street sweeping. We have just taken somebody from picking up trash. We have taken somebody from digging a hole that needs to be dug for the town of Selma. And with that, if we can contract these things out, it would be wise for us to contract these things out and then pass that cost on to the offenders.
And that's the way it should be. Otherwise, people will just continue on and on, knowing, oh, well, Selma will go and clean our property. It's a vicious cycle and it's got to stop.
Again, the efficiency of our operation depends on us being lean and mean and making decisions that make sure that we're not taxing our resources. All right. And again, with legal, we do need a very clear red line dollar amount for fines that makes it make sense to get legal involved. Clearly, if it's only $500 worth of fine, we don't want to be paying for legal help to clean up violations. When we start getting into the thousands range, that's when we need to figure out what financially makes sense to bring in legal help to clean up violations. Everybody good on that? Any questions? Comments? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There was a house, I've been asking about it for numerous years now. And a couple of weeks ago, the house caught on fire. Well, the house was in sad shape, but now it looks in even worse shape. So what do we do there? Is this, do we take the property down? Is the owner informed that his property caught fire? How does that happen? Will that house stand there for 4 more years without anything being done? Because now it looks even more dangerous than it already does,
And again,
or did.
clearly from legal, direct question about any case like that. What are the steps and what is the timeline? And then we stick to those steps and we stick to that timeline every single time. All right, let's see, vacant building ordinance. Speaking of code enforcement, we seem to have gotten incredibly forgiving about vacant buildings. I am going to be incredibly straightforward here with everybody. We're not interested in excuses. We aren't bleeding hearts. We don't care that you are quote unquote trying. If you don't have action going on in your building, it's a vacant building. And they need to be paying the town of Selma accordingly for a building that does not have action going on. So I'm not sure who is charged with tagging vacant buildings. I don't know if our code enforcement officer has currently been charged with it or if planning is currently charged with it. I don't care who it is. Everyone in the town of Selma needs to be compelled to be an incredible contributor in our business community. And sitting on your empty tail property that's falling apart is not a contributor to our business community. So again, the process, the steps, how many days before we start seeing a check come in for your raggedy building sitting empty?
Who owns that ice house?
This was brought up 4 years ago by me, because I know there are other towns, you are fined if you have an empty building, you just pay it. And I'll ask now and then, I don't get much feedback from it, and I'm not the one to go sit at your desk and go, give it to me now. I'm not that, because I know it could be just as hard for you as it is for me. The same, because we could be talking about legal. How much can we charge? What is being done to your building? What steps are you trying to do to make any town better, our town better? And for years, I saw these dilapidated buildings sitting there and nothing being done. And in some cases, we're still not seeing any movement. So that's me. This has always been me. If I asked you a question, hey, how long does it take? And the other night, I wanted to ask legal, okay, well, I've been asking about this, so how long does it take? From the first step, from my first question, just say, Amy, that takes 28.8 days to be taken care of. And if I sound facetious, that's okay, because I've been asking for 4 years. And hopefully we will get a better handle on this.
Absolutely.
Not hopefully, we will.
We will. We absolutely will. We have a whole world of folks that are trying to get over. Plain and simple. A whole world of folks trying to get over. They want to hold on to raggedy properties. They want to have raggedy properties. They want to live in different states and not pay attention to the mess they have. And then they expect us to carry their bag.
You're impeding the progress of civil.
Amen. We'll take care of it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, shoot, we've already polished the railroad days budget.
The D, E, and F, where you all handle that with priorities.
Oh, well,
We
let's
staff out with these, and y'all have more.
cool picture of railroad days. Ooh, look at that. Just a quick, that Mr. Station might actually almost be right there. Isn't it? Now, granted, this picture was taken from Google before the station actually landed, so that's not an actual picture of the actual station. That was a copy and paste job right there. But as you can see, these are just ideas that are being thrown around. This is nothing remotely set in stone. But that area where it says fence on the picture is the area we're talking about concrete slabbing for staging area. And then the black line that you see next to the fence is the actual fence area we're talking about. If we can take a good swing at those two pieces in this budget cycle, we'll be cooking. All right?
That would be fantastic.
Clarification, Mayor, the area that needs to be concrete, is that just the road, or you want to go further up? Or we cover the ditch?
Whatever we feel is appropriate, probably up to the building would be wise for a certain phase. Yes, sir, absolutely. Again, that staging so that you can bring stuff to the building. Yes, sir, very cool, very cool. That nature preserve conversation, just a reminder of whatever area we're talking about. The kind of swivel area in the middle along the Neuse River that is grade is the area we're talking about for the nature preserve. So that is west of the oil terminals as you go down Oak Street, going out toward the oil terminals. That is west of Oak Street, west of the oil terminals. Beautiful, was it 95 and some change? Something along those lines of acreage for nature preserve that we will be developing over the next few years. Woo! Just a reminder, this 250 years of the United States of America. And we're gonna be doing some cool things throughout the town. What do you have for us, Chief?
I looked up the name, and it's very hard to say. Semi-quincentennial,
Ooh. Quincentennial?
But
Semi-quincentennial.
300 would be, but they're, you know, I guess everybody had problems, so the shortness is, everybody's calling American. So, we just wanted to get a little bit of feedback from council on, you know, we'll probably, I'll say it's a thing this year, but, you know, we got a successful, festival already. You want to do anything extra with the budget wasn't up last year. As far as, you know, a mid-sized small band and fireworks show. I think a lot of that budget will get hit by tariff charges for fireworks. That don't go through the cost. You know, I don't know where they come from. Very high tariffs. And some change in the ownership of the deal. So, we just want a little bit of feedback as it was special year for kind of stuff.
Well, first, let me give credit to Councilman Whitley. The downtown fireworks on the 4th of July were an absolute hit. And let's keep it real, you were fussing about that for 2 years. And you were right. So certainly we're gonna keep it that on the 4th of July. Because again, we had a surprising crowd of locals come into downtown and really show up just to see those fireworks, and that was amazing. We're having conversations about the location.
Still working on it, sir.
Okay, so we gotta figure out the location for what would be the May 30th show.
June.
I'm sorry, June, I'm
29th.
sorry, June 30th. Ooh, I'm
June
way off.
29th or 30th.
29th.
It's the 29th.
June.
It was the Monday, the traditional was past, I don't know, 8 years probably, the Monday prior to.
That's the tradition, the Monday prior to. Okay, so June 29th, of course, a larger fireworks show, the location we're still sorting through. And then on July 4th, a downtown fireworks show. Both of those fireworks shows are fire crew / fireworks professionals, pyrotechnic professionals knocked it out of the park. Is there anything else, any other thoughts about doing anything beyond for USA 250? I mean, I think it's a good formula, to be honest with
Everybody happy with that thing of being, you know, just logos and things like that.
you. So we'll start slapping 250 on some town of summer logos and go from there.
Philip,
I
thank
just
you
want to know where
again.
my new quarter's at. I
Oh,
love bicentennial quarter, I like to make them, get, I don't know if that word will fit around the quarter, so excuse me.
For that 4th of July show,
Uh-huh.
I had no idea they were coming, but it was almost a class reunion
Oh, good.
for me. It was, I know that was a lot of hard work for the town. You have to take extra steps. But I appreciated it so much from somebody who loves a firework.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
fantastic work. All right. Appearance commission requests, what are those lists? I know we got some old signs to discuss.
It's street signs, two things were basically coming back.
Mhm.
Historic street signs. And, flower beds on the corners of the Railroad Street and MLK.
Mhm.
So getting back to that was realistic pricing. It's instead of some like lid prices we had before. They were very happy with that. There was, one that they took away was creative crosswalks at the end of the thing. They were not a fan, so they took that away and said any additional funding that we want to put with four finger things, put in gateway things.
In fact, let me add to that creative crosswalks conversation, dialing that back, kudos to the Appearance Commission, that's pretty smart. Because as of recently, we have found that many communities have been told, get rid of your creative crosswalks because it's causing problems. So, fortunately, without that knowledge, we were already ahead of, hey, maybe not anything we should have. So, good deal. With the historic district signage, of course, we did have the conversation about for state roads, leaving those signs green. We do have it where they are
These
overlapped.
particular ones, not overlap, these particular ones, as far as what they, the Appearance Commission voted on, are actually 90 corners with 90s. So worst case scenario, you had a stop sign with road signs. You know, maybe some foil, and you would have a stop sign, then you would have a bracket on top of the vertical brackets, and they would sit like this. So, I mean, I'm bad at this, but you got, you know, corner where our standard for our regular street signs.
Dalton's winning with the picture. Oh, Dalton,
That's-
sure. Yeah,
Now, our standard for our green is not like that.
Oh,
Our standard
yeah.
for our green are gonna be like this.
top and bottom.
And I hope y'all have noticed, there are a lot of these that are, I mean, through, you know, every time they're called up.
So just to make a note for anybody listening in, over time, our public works staff, our streets crew has gone around and gotten rid of the extra poles, put the stop signs and the street signs on the same poles so that when you see a stop sign on top of it is a crossing of street signs to show you the corner that you're on. Not only efficient, really much better for the driver as well. It is fantastic. So great work, great work, great work, great work. The railroad right-of-way conversation, certainly let's start off with just a single test bed somewhere. Really hone how we want that to look, because bear in mind, that'll be thousands of travelers that will see that coming through the town of Selma. Let's make sure we get that out of the park. But we are talking about flower beds on the railroad right-of-ways. And then the last one was the third question. Gateway. And the gateway sign.
It basically, we went over price, and, said, any additional funds, so sticking with the other.
We had 2,000 on the budget request film for the creative crosswalks, and they just voted just to designate that funds to gateway signage.
Just realize that my favorite one is.
Yeah, right.
Very expensive.
They were understanding of how expensive they were, so they decided to put that money towards it.
But again, that is also the tourism dollars.
Yeah.
So it all lumps in together. All right, very good. And then let's get down, last piece of budget retreat, police department car lease program. What you got?
Can I pass something out to you guys?
Yeah, come on, come on.
I got you, stop talking.
So in the past, we've looked at car leasing stuff and it really never really seemed like it was ever beneficial. We've talked with Enterprise before, and Enterprise kind of had a lot of fees and stuff for like decommissioning and commissioning and all that. Like we had to pay for the commission and decommission. And I reached out to a couple of different places and ended up talking with Capital Ford. And I think this leasing car program is something at least to give a look at. So over it, what it does is it's going to reduce our operating expenses. It's going to stabilize our monthly costs, and it's going to generate some net savings. Just this program here, going with the way the numbers are right here, is looking at saving about $306,000 over the course of 5 years. And with what I passed out, if you go to the third page here. So what I did is these numbers here, all these different here, what I did is they took in all of our vehicles, listed them in, and they figured out that our vehicles need to go at around 5 years or 93,000 miles, because that's where we're gonna see the most benefit when we resell those vehicles. Even if we did decide to go with a leasing program, a replacement car, that would be a good idea for us to stick with at 5 years, 93,000 miles. And so they come up with a plan to do all of our vehicles, and this is gonna be on this page, I think it's gonna be like page 5 or 6. All right, now these numbers, if you look at the top, we have 26 current vehicles, right now. And looking at the vehicle price of, now this is just based off of the Ford Explorers that we currently have. These numbers are based off the Ford Explorers. And currently right now, if you look at our budget request for this year, we need to replace just about every detective car and SRO cars. And right now, in the budget for this year, we've requested $315,000. With this program here, you'd be looking at getting 6 cars, and it would cost you $50,368. That's gonna be per year for 5 years. So even at that, you're still way less than $315,000. And the best part is if you do this, you can stop this at any point in time. You can do it the first year and then say, hey, I don't want to do number 3, 4, or 5 at any point. Best part is so you get, if you decide to go with their program, which you don't have to, any part of this can be negotiated in or out to change what you want. So whatever you guys look at, and of course I could get the Capital Ford guys to come out and sit down and talk with y'all anytime you like. So currently we use Strickland's Brothers to change the oil. So what the Ford Fleet program does is they make sure you would get a Ford Fleet card, and they would bill us for it, but they would make sure we're getting the cheapest price. So if we needed the brakes changed, Ford's going to say, that company going to say, sorry, we're not going to pay you that. This is the standard, and we're going to pay this. So it would help us. That's one way. Another way is saving you money there as well. And again, you don't have to use their companies. We can still do what we do now and pick the companies you use. Like for instance, these cars would come fully outfitted when we got them. We would get them, they're already going to be fully outfitted. They'll bring them to us.
So
They're
that's
gonna
lights.
the whole thing. Now that's not the $45,000, so that would change a little bit. So we would get it fully outfitted, and they would actually take it back fully outfitted, because what they're doing at 5 years, 93,000 miles, about 8 months out, they're going to be ordering our next cars if we're sticking with the program, and they're going to take these cars and try to sell them to a smaller police department. So they're going to do that. The best part is they give you the money off. Let's just keep it an easy number. If they say, hey, in 5 years, we think we can get $15,000 on resale, they're going to take that $15,000 off at the beginning of the lease, not at the end of the lease. And at the end of the lease, if they sell it for $18,000, the $3,000 comes back to us. So this program, I really, when we sit down and talk with the guy, like, how are y'all making money doing this? But this program is just something I think is worth giving it a look at. Again, like I said, even if you just did it the first year, we're replacing 6 cars. You're only spending $50,368. That number could go up or down depending on how much it costs to do the outfitting. Because we can still choose. We can still do what we currently do. We still get the budget, so we can go get the 3 quotes, and we can still choose who's going to outfit our cars. We don't have to use their. So we can say, just like we do now, we got the best deal. We can send them, say, hey, get with Ford, this is who we're going to use, and Ford will do all the transport and the vehicles, whole 9 yards. So when that car shows up at the police department, and they're sitting around waiting for this budget amendment or this money to be moved or anything like that car is going to be ready for a police officer in it and go to work.
But yeah, can you pull, if you got it available, if you don't, we can just use this information, what we're paying in finance payments for police cars currently and how long they are. If you, they just need that information from, but not that.
What we can do, because I do like the idea of getting the Capital Ford guy in front of us, let's have that information prepared for, is that something we think we can do in February?
You just let me know when y'all want to do it, and I'll get with him in advance and
I'd say
try to
meeting
schedule that.
Yeah, let's see, what's meeting one? February 5th.
February 5th.
See if you got somebody available February 5th, because that's an interesting offer.
current process that we're working with, which is very simple, but I just want to make sure that apples are apples. We are purchasing, we're obviously writing one big check for whatever, I think last year we got 5 cars,
Yes, sir.
so 5 cars, then we go finance. That's usually a 4-year, I'm pretty sure it's a 4-year finance term. So you've got a, you know, 1 year it was $300 and some odd $1,000. So that payment, I'm not sure off the top of my head what that payment is, because it's what you're saying. Yeah, so that's the process now. So, you know, we're truly not coming out, so it's $300,000 purchase you're talking about. We're not coming out of that $300,000, because we're bringing it along, writing a check, and we're paying that finance part for the next year. So, just let you know how, what current operations are.
I just printed out the first 14 pages of that PowerPoint. That PowerPoint is actually 46 pages long, and I can email that to you guys if you'd like to see that. But I think the capital floor guy would give any type of questions you would have or anything about that would help you out. And they also offer, I mean, this could be something you may be interested in for town-wide, because they offer the line trucks and things that George uses, and the public work trucks, everything. So it might be something you might want to actually look at expanding past the police department.
And Major, so they would take care of, because realistically, we all get our oil change and our vehicles, brakes happen, this and that. So this program here, take care of all that?
There's certain, depending on what level and where you decide to put it at, yes, ma'am, you can't have that. Or what they do with the Ford, and the reason why they're doing this Ford fleet card is because they want to be able to go to that police department and they're trying to sell it to and say, here's the service record. This car was changed every 3,000 miles. The brakes were done here. Another good thing about that I forgot to mention was they don't do, you know how to get into oil, get your oil change sometime, the guy comes in there with his air filter and says, I think you need a new air filter. You don't really know if you need a new air filter or not.
That's right.
Well, Ford Motor Company will tell them, no, it's not time to do that. We do that at this exact miles. So they'll say, no, you're not replacing the air filter.
Very cool. So what we'll do is we'll plan to have a presentation at February 15th, meeting 1 in February. But that is sounds like a good find. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Do we have any other questions related to the lease program?
Thank you so much.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right, that brings us into, I think we have, is it business items that are next? So let's get the camera back up as we actually go through things that we'll actually be voting on. Make sure that we,
Computer.
everybody see
Angle
what's
your computer
happening
so I can see it.
in the room. We just have a few business items here at the end. We can do our budget discussion.
You're good.
Okay. So yes, we do have 4 business items to look at. First one starting off with council rules and procedure. Make sure we got everything straight.
Sorry.
No problem at all. So as far as the council rule and procedure, is it basically the edits that we discussed at council in our last meeting?
Yes, sir, that is correct. There were a few minor changes that I made in addition to small grammatical changes, but nothing of substance at all.
No substantive changes whatsoever. Was everybody comfortable with those adjustments made to the council rules and procedures? Do I have a motion to adopt the updated council rules and procedures?
So much.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We've got some updated council rules and procedures. We also, coming up on a business item B, Maple Leaf Solar Special Use Permit Conditions Update. Just a brief overview of that conversation. So as part of the special use permit related to Maple Leaf Solar, we put on a condition of annexation of the property for them to build a solar farm on that property. Unfortunately, with the way that our state legislature reads and how that is built, we cannot satellite annex that much land outside of the town of Selma. It is my opinion, my personal opinion, that we don't need to hold up such a fantastic project outside of Selma over annexation. Of course, I think for us with the solar farm, it's kind of neither here nor there. We do not have to service that area. We won't have to worry about police protection for a solar farm or anything like that. That's only some minor tax considerations, which I don't think at the end of the day are worth holding on the solar farm for. So with that, I would say that the adjustment to the special use permit would be that the permit is granted still without the condition of annexation into the town. So, if we're all right with that amendment to the special use permit, do I have a motion to that effect? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And again, just to discuss plainly, it is something that not only the Maple Leaf folks have been very good to discuss, but everybody involved with that property has definitely looked at all ways to approach the conversation, but to make sure that we're not holding up progress in and around the town of Selma, I just do not feel it's necessary to have that property necessarily annexed into the town.
It's based on an idea of just being annexed, procedure or something.
Well, so as part of it, when you're annexing in property, of course, there's the tax base, but then of course that extends your footprint into certain areas. But we're talking about the northern area of Selma where we don't intend to do too much heavy developing as far as Selma is concerned anyway. So this property is northwest of Selma, running along the Neuse River. How many hundred acres do we have off the top of my head? Yeah, I can't remember off the top of the head either, but yeah, a very large property northwest of Selma that is a little bit beyond our actual contiguous annexation. And by the way, our state general statute reads, we can't annex that much land that is not contiguous into our system. So we've got the motion, the second on the table. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We've got an update of conditions to a special use permit. And again, if there are any other issues that we run into, or if there's any help that's needed to develop a solar farm, town of Selma is all about clean energy at the end of the day. C, I've got a little work to do myself here. We've got some Selma Housing Authority Board members whose term have come up. It is my burden alone to appoint our Selma Housing Authority Board. So with that, I believe we have members that are willing to continue serving on the Selma Housing Authority Board. So I will reappoint Ms. Suzanne Parker to the Selma Housing Authority Board, and I hope you're all right with this, Mr. Chairman. Reappoint Mrs. Nora Scarborough to the Selma Housing Authority. So those are reappointments for the Selma Housing Authority Board as their terms are up, and thankfully they are willing to continue so. And then I believe Mr. Dalton wanted to make just some clerical updates to the ordinance related to the 205 and 207 Merriman Drive annexation. That's right. So these are really purely no substitution, so just annexing and make sure the wording is correct. That's correct. Crossing those T's, dotting those I's, man. All right, so do I have a motion to adopt the revised ordinance related to the 205 and 207 Merriman Drive annexations?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't think I got a motion for the board for this.
No motion. That's my job. Yeah, that's just me. Yeah, but they've been absolved without any, well, within housing authority things. All right, anything else? I think that's the end of the room. We definitely don't have any closed session, do we? Nope. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, everybody have a good night. Wonderful visit out to Silver Pines. Great, great, great.
Yeah, sure.